Hi guys, in this video we are going to learn what is Unity Catalog and how to configure it in Azure. So let's start with the theory. What's Unity Catalog? Unity Catalog is the unified governance solutions for data in Databricks. It is designed to provide centralized access control, auditing, data lineage, and data discovery capabilities across multiple workspaces. Unity Catalog by itself has no extra cost other than the computation required, but it's true that some extra requirements are needed. For instance, a premium tier Databricks is required for that. In order to review the Unity Catalog objects, here we have the metastore. The metastore is the top container. It registers all the metadata about security, data, permissions, whatever. We can only create a metastore per region, and we can assign it to one or more workspaces. The only condition is that the workspace should be in the same region as the metastore. There are 3 levels below the metastore. The level 1 is the catalog, that is basically to organized data assets, so it's a kind of organizational unit for databases or schemas. In the level 2 we have the schemas, or also known as databases. And in the level 3, we have the volumes, tables, views, functions, or models. We can manage the security at all these levels. So we can manage the security at catalog level, at the schema level, but also at any object level. Okay, being said that, let's move to the architecture that we will need to start using Unity Catalog. I'm going to explain first all the pieces that we will need, and then we can see a practical example. First, we are going to deploy a Databricks, which should be of premium tier. As we said, it's mandatory to be able to use the Unity Catalog. Automatically, as part of the workspace deployment, we will have deployed an access connector for Databricks. And we will also need a storage account where Unity Catalog will keep all the Unity Catalog metadata. Important that the storage account is in the same region as the workspace that we created, and also that it has enabled the hierarchical namespace. Then we will grant in the storage account data contributor permissions for the access connector resource. Now let's start deploying all the things ourselves. We have here a resource group, and we are going to start creating a Databricks resource. We are going to look for Azure Databricks, create. We are going to call it workspace 1, and we are going to deploy it in West Europe region. And again, as we said, we need it to be on premium tier. Okay, let's check that everything is fine. Perfect. Let's create it. Okay, I will show you later that the access connector for Databricks has been deployed by itself, as well as a storage account, but we will go now to create a new storage account. In the same resource group, we are going to create a storage account. Create. The resource group is fine. We are going to call it Delta Lake, GMA, and for the region, West Europe. It's recommended to have low latency, so I'm going to select the premium and block blocks. And as I mentioned before, it's a must to enable the hierarchical namespace. Let's see if everything is fine. Okay, so let's deploy it. Our Databricks deployment probably already finished. Let's check. Yes, here we have the Databricks workspace. And if we list the resource group, you will check that there's an extra resource group created by default for this Databricks workspace. If we open this resource group, we can see that we have here many resources. But I would like you to see that there's an access connector for Databricks already, and also a storage account. If we browse to the storage account, there we can see that there's a container called Unity Catalog Storage. Basically, this storage account was automatically created with the Databricks deployment, the workspace deployment, and automatically the access connector for Databricks is pointing to this storage account. So if we get here to the access control, and we check the role assignments, we will see that the access connector is already granted with the storage blob data contributor permissions. so we don't need to do it ourselves. Okay, so we should be ready. In order to make this environment more real, you can check that I have created a secondary workspace here in this resource group, but I also created a secondary resource group in a totally different region, East US, and I deployed there 2 other workspaces. If we go back to list the resource group, we will check that there are more resource groups, 1 per workspace. And inside each of them, we have their own access connector and their own storage account. Okay, so let's get into the Databricks environment. And in the top right, we can deploy the list of workspaces. Below, you should see an option Manage Account. We are going to click on it, and we are going to get into the administrator area for Unity Catalog. Not only for the workspace 1 in which we were in, but for the entire Unity Catalog along all the workspaces. If we go now to workspaces, we will see the list, and each of them will be associated to a metastore that has been created by default. As I said, for the moment, Databricks just allows us to create 1 metastore per region, but the metastore can be assigned to 1 or many workspaces located in the same region. We can click on the metastore here in workspaces, and here we can assign workspaces or just unassign them. For instance, we can unassign the metastore from this workspace. If we go back to the workspaces, we can see now that this workspace is totally out of the Unity Catalog, as it's not assigned to a metastore. If we go to East US metastore, we can go to workspace area, and we can try to assign here a workspace that is in a different region. And you can check that we are not allowed to do that. Let's do something. We are going to delete this metastore, and we are going to recreate it, but we are going to point it to the storage account that we previously created. We are going to the catalog, get into the West Europe metastore, and here in the ellipsis, we will be able to delete it. Okay, it's not anymore here. We are going to create a new metastore. We are going to call it My Metastore West Europe, and the region should be West Europe. If we scroll down to the bottom here, we can see that the East US is there, and that's because we already have a metastore in that region. And as we said, it's only allowed 1 metastore per region. We are going to select West Europe, and now we will supply the path in which we want to store the data that needs to follow this structure that you see here. So let's go first to the storage account in West Europe. And we are going to create a container called Unity Catalog. I'm going to copy the storage account name because I will need it. And we are going back to Databricks. And we are going to add here the container name, Unity Catalog, add the storage account name, .dfs.core.windows.net, and a slash. If we want the Unity Catalog to be stored in a different folder, we can just supply here the subfolder level in which we want to add the data, but in our case, we want it to be in the root. In the Access Connect ID, we need to supply the value of the Access Connector that we are going to use. So we are going to use one of the one that was automatically created for the workspace 1 in this same region. And this is the resource ID that is what we need. We are going to copy it and paste it here. If we now try to create it, you will see that it's going to fail because we didn't grant the access connector access in the storage account. We are going to the storage account, to the access control, add roles. We are going to look for a storage blob contributor. Here it is. And in the members area, manage identity, access connector. And now, as we have many of them, because we have 4 workspaces, we are going to look for the one assigned to the workspace 1. In fact, I can use whichever is in the same region, and let's grant the permissions. If we go back now to the Databricks, let's create now the metastore again, and now it's ready, it's fine, it's working. Okay, now we are going to select the workspaces in which we want to have this metastore assigned. That, of course, are only the ones that are in the same region. See that we can also mark this interesting option that will make that any new workspace that we deployed in the same region will automatically be assigned to this metastore. Okay, with this, we conclude the basics about configuring Unity Catalog. Thanks for watching. I hope this was useful for you. Feel free to take a look at any of my videos related to Unity Catalog.